Good early afternoon. We are glad you guys are here. It is the Blue Plate Special, a Tuesday Blue Plate, which means everybody's invited, and we got people from all over here. And man, you guys were the first to get here, and I know that because I was in here working. I was actually in here working when all you guys came in, but I was glad that you came in to see some of what we were doing, because I got to talk for 2 hours to Gloria Gaither this morning, and she is like the wisest woman that I have ever met, and I'm always just, I love her to death, but I'm always just a little bit nervous around her, you know? I mean, it's almost like meeting the queen or something. And I love her. Nothing to make me feel that way. But, you know, my parents, both my parents died when I was 19. And my mom died of cancer. My dad was killed in a car accident. My dad and mom were ministers of music in church. And so I grew up hearing Bill and Gloria Gaither music. And so, and Jacob Norris Luker, your grandparents sang Gaither music too. But I grew up hearing that, and so every time I'm with Bill and Gloria, I get this feeling my parents are just like laughing. You know, it's like I get to be friends with these people. So I just am always amazed. I love them so much. Dana Kilpatrick, hello, how you doing? Marcy Crosser Taylor, how are you? And you love the professional noticer this morning. Man, that was a kick for me to get to interview Peter Granger, who is like a favorite author of mine that I found. He's a British guy and writes crime novels. And I've just fallen in love with what he writes. And so I guess it's one of the perks of doing what I do for a living that I really take advantage of, because I'll say, SB, see if you can find this guy. See if he wants to do a podcast so we can promote his book. You know, so I can talk to him. Sandy Adkins, hey, from El Salvador. We're glad you're here with us. What time is it in El Salvador? Might be the same time. Might be. You know what Gloria and I were talking about? We recorded 2 podcasts on poetry. Now, don't just tune me out, okay, when I say that. Dave Larder, hey, from Phoenix, no cold, no snow. And then we're starting a thing with Wisdom Harbor on the Writer's Dock to have conversations about poems, because I have recently gotten interested in this. Now, I say recently because when I was a kid, a young person, junior high, high school, I hated it. I hated poetry. I hated to read it. I hated to have to memorize it. I hated to hear it. I didn't want to talk about it. And I don't know why, but I didn't like history either when I was in school. I mean, I love it now, but I didn't like history either. But I know why I didn't like history, and maybe that's the same reason I didn't like poetry, because when I always say that I would have liked history a lot earlier if I'd had a teacher who walked in one day and said, okay, close your books. No, we're not going to memorize dates. Today, I'm going to tell you a story. If I'd have had a history teacher that did that, I'd have been into history. And if I'd had Gloria Gaither as my English teacher in high school, I'd have probably liked poetry. We went over, the poem Elizabeth Barrett Browning, How Do I Love Thee, Let Me Count the Ways. That has been just kind of a joke to me. Because I was just like, how stupid, and I love you this and that. And but we did a thing for the Writer's Dock, and she explained that to me. And I think it might make my marriage better. I mean, just understanding that. But Gloria and Bill were English teachers in high school. That's how they met. I mean, well, they're high school English teachers. okay? And that's how they met. And so Gloria says, because I said, where are all the poets today? There's no poets, It used to be poetry, and people back in the early 1900s, people would read it and say it, and listen to it, and buy it. But I thought that all the poets today were songwriters, and she said, there are poets, and she said, I don't know that we need any more poets, but we need school teachers that can teach it and bring some interest in it. And I thought, well, that's the daggone truth. So I told her, I said, so when we do this, you just know I'm going to be the smart aleck 8th grader, and you're going to drag me kicking and screaming, and let's see if you can teach me. And boy, she has. We started talking about this because I found, I guess a poet is the best way I could put it. Which me finding a poet seems very odd, but I was actually reading an article in Field and Stream, which sounds more like me. And the guy was talking about deer hunting and opening day every year and how he's done it every year his whole life. And when he was a kid, he and his cousin used to hunt opening day of deer season in Pennsylvania every single year. And they would hunt together in the same deer blind, and their uncle would be there. And they'd get in there before daylight, and it'd be cold, freezing cold. And the uncle would always read them the poem called The Cremation of Sam McGee. And so he put a couple of verses in this article, and I thought, that's pretty interesting. And so when I got through reading the article, I Googled Cremation of Sam McGee, and I read the thing, and I was like, this is incredible. This is hilarious. It's incredible. And who wrote this? And so I found this guy, and a guy named Robert Service was born in Canada, moved to the Yukon in his late teens when the gold rush was going to happen. And so he had a propensity for writing rhyming verse. And he would do recitations in bars. And so some people heard him. A publisher heard him and bought 40 of his poems in 1903 for $100,000 in 1903. So he thought, okay, I'm going to write some more, I guess, because in 1907, is it 1907? 1907. Yeah, 1907. He came out with this. It was called Songs of the Sourdough. Sourdough is what they call the guys up in the Yukon. And that book sold 3 million copies in 1907. So this dude was off and running. As you can tell, I have become a collector very quickly. That's a first edition of Ballads of a Cheechako. But all these... he went and drove an ambulance in World War I. And then he wrote this one called Rhymes of a Red Cross Man. And after World War I, he moved to Paris, and he hung out with Gertrude Stein and Hemingway, but he was the rich one. They didn't have any money, and he had $1 million, So, but it's amazing what he has done, what he has written. And I found a short one the other night. I came in and told Matt about it when I got here, because I said, "Is the daggum poem I ever read? It's about a goldfish, And how you write something about a goldfish?" And so I was going through, I said, I don't remember which book I found it in, but I'm going through all the books, trying in the table of contents, trying to find goldfish. And I can't find it. I said, I can't believe I can't find this thing. I can't find the poem about the goldfish. So I Googled it. And the reason I couldn't find it is the name of the poem is Privacy. Okay? So it's a short one, but I want to read it to you here before we get into the main part of the show. Because I think you'll get a kick out of this and just the rhyme scheme and how he connected a goldfish to privacy. Okay, here you go. Oh, you who are shy of the popular eye, though most of us seek to survive it, just think of the goldfish who wanted to die because she could never be private. There are pebbles and reeds for aquarium needs of eel and of pike who are boldfish, but who gives a thought to a sheltering spot for the sensitive soul of a goldfish? So the poor little thing swam round in a ring in a globe of crystalline crudity, swam round, but no refuge she found from the public display of her nudity. No weedy retreat for a cloister discreet, from the eye of the mob to exempt her. Can you wonder she paled and her appetite failed till even a fly couldn't tempt her? I watched with dismay as she faded away. Each day she grew slimmer and slimmer. From an amber that burned to a silver she turned, then swiftly was dimmer and dimmer. No longer she gleamed, like a spectre she seemed. One morning I anxiously sought her. I only could stare. She was no longer there. She'd simply dissolved in the water. So when you behold bright fishes of gold in globes of immaculate purity, just think how they'd be more contented and free if you gave them a little obscurity. And you who make laws, get busy, because you can brighten the lives of untold fish if its sadness you note and a measure promote to ensure private life for the goldfish. You know, I'm still stuck on Jerry Reed stuff. You know, I'm still quoting, she got the gold mine, I got the shaft. I think it's back at 73 when eating my cooking got the better of me, and I asked this little girl I was going with to be my wife. Well, she said she would, and I said I do, but I'd have said I wouldn't if I'd have just knew how saying I do was going to screw up all of my life. That's like, poetry to me. Marcy Crosser Taylor, going through your parents' stuff and you found all this poetry your dad had written. Did you write it to your mother? Had no idea how talented he was. What a great find to have something your dad did. Les Care. Hey, Les. Enjoying privacy, watching in Nashville, Tennessee. It's good to see you. Nancy from Carrollton, Texas. Hey, where is Carrollton? Maybe Dallas, like a suburb of Carrollton. This morning we have people from Indiana and Michigan. You guys own the place today, Indiana and Michigan. That's who we have, Indians, and Michiganders. So, all right, today, hey, Jude DeWitt from Eastern Washington. Today we're gonna talk about weird English. We've been talking about poetry, and I think that poetry would be. I think the poets today are songwriters. And if Gloria Gaither is Songwriter of the Century, according to ASCAP, Songwriter of the Century, then she would, if there were poets still around, she would be the Poet Laureate of the United States. Helen Bollock from Hickory, North Carolina. I used to know somebody from Hickory, North Carolina. Obviously didn't know them well. Can't think of their name. But from Hickory, North Carolina. Who did I know? Somebody from Hickory. So, I think it would probably be easier to be a poet in other languages because English is such a weird language. And it's no wonder that kids have a hard time, learning it. It's no wonder people move here, can't get with the colloquialisms, because you think about some of our sayings. Can you imagine somebody coming here from another country and hearing somebody say it's raining cats and dogs? I mean, why does that mean it's raining hard? raining cats and dogs. I mean, obviously, there wasn't a day. Well, there was a day that it was raining so hard that dogs and cats came out of the sky. There wasn't a day like that. And so why would somebody say it's raining cats and dogs? And why is something easy a piece of cake? Why not a piece of pie? Well, this is just a loaf of bread. I mean, this is just a glass of orange juice. I mean, why a piece of cake? Where'd that come from?
I don't know. You know, you saying this about the...
I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Oh.
Turn your mic on.
I gotta get you on. I got your studio off from... There we go. How about that?
There you go.
Had you off from... You couldn't hear anything when you were talking to Gloria. You know, I thought it was funny, and maybe you were planning on mentioning this, but just being that the podcast came out when you were talking to Peter Granger, and I noticed the first time you said you were talking about going on rabbit trails, and I kind of like looked at his face, and he didn't really say much about that, and then you said it again, and he finally I guess realized from context clues. He was like, "Oh, you mean little like veering off on another thing?" He's like, "I've never heard of going on a rabbit trail."
I know. Here's this author with so many bestsellers from England, and I said something about you're so good at rabbit trails. Because a good author can keep you interested, but a great author makes you enjoy those rabbit trails. And I now that I think about it, I did see him kind of do that at first, and then I mentioned it again, and he finally got it. But that's here's English and English, and you think about English. English is the only language that we have irregular plural words that don't have an S at the end. The plural of the word is not an S, it's a different word. Like people and persons, person and people, and not persons. Look at all the persons. There's a person. Look at the people. And child, it's not childs. Look at all the childs. There were so many childs on that playground today. It's children. Tooth and teeth. Did you know that the toothbrush was invented in Arkansas, Matt?
Did not.
Yeah, it didn't invent it anywhere else. They called it a teeth brush. Okay. Foot becomes feet. And so even if you know the word, you could be saying it wrong. It is amazing to me because widely used pronunciations can be completely wrong. And it has amazed me writing books and then doing the narration of that book, putting together the book for Audible. Gabe Wicks has produced the vast majority of my books. And so Gabe he's like a degree in Southern literature, and he's a real smart person. And so Gabe reads along as I'm reading it. Now, I wrote it, okay? But occasionally he'll stop me and go, I think you want to pronounce that. And here's one. I was reading, and this was in Just Jones, where I was talking about Oliver Sutherland, the kid, the redheaded kid. And I said that I had a sentence talking about him being mischievous, which I guess I've said all my life, mischievous. And Gabe stopped me and said, I think you want to say that mischievous. Really? Yeah. And I've checked, and yeah, it's mischievous. How many of you in the audience out there today say mischievous? How many mischievous? Yeah, everybody's mischievous. How about that? Wow, Gabe. I mean, when does it become that everybody's saying it a certain way and that just becomes the way? I don't know. I guess when Gabe croaks. But And think about the words that are spelled differently but sound the same, or the words that are spelled the same but sound differently. I mean, how do you learn this stuff? Like, laid, L-A-I-D, is pronounced like paid, P-A-I-D. But paid, P-A-I-D, is not pronounced like S-A-I-D, paid, said. Paid, laid, said. Said, S-A-I-D, is pronounced like B-R-E-A-D, bread. Said, bread. But B-R-E-A-D is not pronounced like B-E-A-D, bread, bead. B-E-A-D, bead, B-E-A-D, is pronounced like lead, L-E-A-D. But lead, L-E-A-D, is not pronounced like lead, L-E-A-D. Lead, L-E-A-D, lead, L-E-A-D. How would you learn this coming from another country? You know, tear, T-E-A-R, and tier, T-I-E-R, are pronounced the same, right? T-E-A-R, T-E-I-R. They're pronounced the same. But tear and tear are pronounced differently, but spelled the same. T-E-A-R, tear, T-E-A-R, tear. I mean, I think we need to be a little more lenient with our students in English. I was thinking of these. How about, and I don't even know what you call these, but these are words that are spelled the same, but they mean something different. And I'll put them in a sentence for you. Like, I'm not content with this content. C-O-N-T-E-N-T. I object to that object. O-B-J-E-C-T. I need to read what I read again. R-E-A-D, R-E-A-D. Read, read. Excuse me, but there's no excuse for this. E-X, C-U-S-E, E-X, C-U-S-E. And then there's words that are spelled in counterintuitive ways. I mean, they don't look like what they sound like. And then some of them don't look like what they sound like, and they put silent letters in them. Remember that in school? Well, that's a silent, like night. There's night and there's night. The night came at night. But the night, there's a silent K. A silent K? Night, knife, silent K. You remember learning to spell these words when you were a kid? Spell it, and they would say, sound it out, knife, knife. And then some of them have silent words, have silent letters in the middle, like Wednesday. The silent D in the middle of the stupid word. I mean, I don't know how you can. And then some have silent letters like toward the end, like rain, R-E-I-G-N. The G would be silent. Rain. you know, this is why they came out with Hooked on Phonics. That's why that was even invented, is so that you could sound out the things. But in the irony of history, phonics is not spelled phonetically. I mean, if the word phonics was adhering to their rule, wouldn't it be spelled with an F? Phonics. Phonics. But no. I mean, it's like one little jab from, one little jab from the authorities. Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you teach them this new way. We'll let you teach them this new way. But what you're calling it has to be spelled the old way. I mean, this is like mean. It's mean. I mean, if you had to learn to spell using the rules that we have to learn to read by, because when we learn to spell growing up, spelling is nothing, for the most part, is memorization. It's just memorizing. You can't sound out Wednesday. You can't sound out knife. And so, if we had to spell with the same rules that we had to use learning to read, think about this. The word enough, E-N-O-G-H. The G-H sound is an F, okay? Enough, G-H. When you say women, W-O-M-E-N, women, the O makes that short I sound. I. Women. I. It's an O, but it's an I. So you got the GH that's an F, the O that's an I, and then in nation, N-A-T-I-O-N, the nay, N-A-T-I, the T-I is sh. So if we had to spell like we learned to read, then G-H-O-T-I is how we would spell fish. Welcome to the English language. Enough, the G-H-F, women, the O, yeah, the nation, T-I, sh, G-H-O-T-I, G-H-O-T-I. Oh, it's fish, of course. Now, here you go. The boy caught a G-H-O-T-I. Can you see doing this to a second grader? The boy, what is G-H-O-T-I? Come on, phonetically. Fish. Not a chance in a million. I rest my case. But it's just, and you know that I before E thing? That's just a lie. Because there's so many exceptions to that rule that it ain't even a rule. I'm trying to think, like, What are some of the words that are spelled the same but they sound different? What do you call those? Is there a name for those? Let's call them goatees. Goatees. GHOTI. These are words that are spelled the same but sound different. Goatees. Like the bandage was wound around the wound. WOUND. The farm was used to produce produce. We're going to produce produce. PRODUCE. How do you say that? Produce? You're wrong. I just spelled produce. I mean, how would that work on a spelling bee? You know? The dump was so full, it had to refuse more refuse. The word is refuse. 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 You just spelled refuge, you stupid kid. I mean, that would be just horrible. We must polish the Polish furniture. Polish, Polish, same way. The word is Polish. Polish, POLISH. What, are you supposed to capitalize Polish? You are? Do you capitalize Polish like a Polish sausage? Not the S. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. He could lead if he would get the lead out. Lead if he'd get the lead out. The soldier decided to desert his dessert in the desert. How about that one? That's a good. Soldier decided to desert his dessert in the desert. Now, curiously, dessert is two S's. All right, so dessert and desert are one S. This is going to give me a headache. This is just going to give me a headache. Since there is no time like the present, he thought it was time to present the present. How about that one? I'm proud of that one. I'm proud. Since there's no time like the present, he thought it was time to present the present. This is ridiculous. A base was painted on the head of the bass drum, which the drummer used while bass fishing. Bass, bass, bass. Monica Early. Hey, how are you doing? Monica is a contributor to Wisdom Harbor, and she is listening. Monica is the former chief protocol officer for the special operations, and Monica says she doesn't know how we got through school. I don't either. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't either. Jacob Norris says a heteronym is a word that has a different pronunciation and meaning from another word, but the same spelling. That's a heteronym. Same pronunciation, but different spelling. Like dessert and dessert. When shot at, the dove dove into a bush. The dove dove, D-O-V-E. I object to the object. The insurance was invalid for the invalid. There was a row among the oarsmen about how to row. Did you think there was this many of these things? They were too close to the door to close it. Too close to the door to close it. The buck does funny things when does are present. Does, does, D-O-E-S. A seamstress and a sewer fell down into a sewer line. No, a seamstress and a sewer, S-E-W-R, a sewer. A sewer fell into a sewer. And then here's another sow. The farmer taught his sow to sow. What's the wind on the sail? I can't see it. I still can't see it. Got to go down more. There you go. The wind was too strong to wind the sail. Wind, wind. Upon seeing the tear in the painting, I shed a tear. We talked about that one earlier. A tear in the tear. I had to subject the subject to a series of tests. How can I intimate this to my most intimate friend? That's 20 of those things. 20 of those things. Okay, let's bring this baby home. We say, now think about this, about what we say in, on, and at, okay? We say in January, we say on Wednesday, and we say at 12 o'clock. That just totally don't make any sense. Now, I thought of this one the other day. I came in and I told Matt and Devin this. If you look in the mirror and you think, I'm half pretty and I'm half ugly, that just means you're pretty ugly. Have you noticed that S-A-L-M-O-N is pronounced salmon? The L is silent. Salmon. But the disease, or the thing you can get, S-A-L-M-O-N-E-L-A, that's salmonella. They don't call it salmonella. It's salmonella. So if you think you're half pretty and you're half ugly, you're pretty ugly. Rich Randall, how we got through school without being confused. You got through school without being confused, Rich? I didn't. I was confused from the very beginning. I was confused about what they wanted me to do. I was confused about why I had to be there. John Mason Smith. Hey, buddy. Live from the wharf. Yep. We are. We miss you around here. John Mason Smith used to live here, used to be a pillar of the community. And now you're a pillar of the community over on the East Coast. Bunny says it makes me crazy when people don't know how to use to, and to. I gotta say that drives me crazy too. You know, when people don't know how to use the TOO. And yeah, that kind of gets me too. And there. That just seems like a basic one. Much love from Melissa Croucher. Thank you, Melissa. we take your love. You know, I was talking to Gloria about one of the poems, and I made a smart aleck remark, and she didn't laugh.
I remember that.
You remember that? I mean, she kind of thought I was being serious, I guess, which that's her mistake. I mean, she should know me better than that. But what was that? There was one of these we were talking about, and
I think, weren't you talking about
it was the
two
Robert
different
Frost
types of women?
huh?
Was it the two different kinds of
Yeah,
women?
yeah, it was the Robert Frost poem. All right, so here's the Robert Frost poem. Two roads diverged in the yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could to where it been in the undergrowth, then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And so she's explaining how that it's a metaphor for life. It's not really talking about a trail in the woods. It's talking about the choices we make, and we make this choice, and then we look at our lives and we realize we could have taken that choice, but we took this choice. And I said, you know, those last three lines, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that's made all the difference. You know, less traveled. It's like a guy deciding who he's going to marry, and he has a choice of two women. There's the harlot and the virgin, and he took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Well, she didn't laugh. I was just being an 8th grade smart aleck. You know, I mean, that's what I'd have said in 8th grade. I guarantee you. You know, virgin makes me think. You know what virgin makes me think of? Jerry Zeka says, what is your thought on the use of irregardless? I think irregardless of what you think, you shouldn't use irregardless. There is no word, irregardless. Irregardless doesn't exist. It's regardless. But you hear people say irregardless. And you hear people say supposedly. Supposedly? We used to live next door to a lady who on Thanksgiving and Christmas would set her table by getting out all her china and crystal. Put all her crystal out. This was the same lady who at work, they did their calendar, she said, on a physical year. So, so what was I talking about? I know we got to go, but I was talking about virgin, what it made me think of. Mm-hmm. I tell you what it makes me think of. Not what not what you think it makes me think of. What it makes me think of is when you're in the grocery store and you see olive oil, virgin olive oil, and extra virgin olive oil. And my thought is, you know, what is an extra virgin? I mean, my daddy told me either you were or you weren't. I mean, I didn't know there was degrees you could aspire to. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm 24, and if I hold out another year, I'll be an extra virgin. Does that make any sense? I don't know. But we're glad to have you here today. We're glad to have had you here today as much as I'm sure you enjoyed being had. So we'll see you. What is today? Tuesday. Thursday is our next Blue Plate special. And if you're watching from home, remember that Thursday is Wisdom Harbor Day, and you get that Blue Plate special if you're subscribed to our streaming service, wisdomharbor.com. And there's no reason not to be, because frankly, it's cheap, okay? I mean, less than $3 a month or $27 for the entire year. So, come on. Emily Isbell is also a contributor to Wisdom Harbor. Hey, little M. So, you just walked in? It's interesting to walk into. Emily is our Gen Z on Wisdom Harbor, and you just walked into a conversation on virgins and extra virgins, I'll bet. Talk to your daddy. All right? Just talk to your daddy. How about that? And we'll see y'all Thursday. Bye-bye.